How's it, everyone? Welcome to Open Court. So I got another racket review for you guys today, and it's a racket that I've never played with before, and it's a relatively new line, and that is the Wilson Clash line, specifically the Clash 98. Let's check it out. So I'm sure you guys have heard of the Wilson Clash line. It is a hugely popular lineup that was released only a few years ago. It's relatively new. I believe the Wilson Clash 100 is one of, if not the best-selling racket currently on the market. So what makes the Wilson Clash so hugely popular? Well, a lot of players complain about stiffness and elbow problems. The Wilson Clash is known for having an extremely soft response, and it flexes very differently, nothing like any other thing on the market right now. So how does the Wilson Clash line achieve this unique flex? In the first generation of the Clash lineup, they implemented something called the free flex technology, which is unique to the Clash line. And for this second generation, which they've painted all red, by the way, I really like this new paint job, they changed that free flex name to 45, which I don't know why a name change was necessary. I think free flex is a lot more intuitive and you understand what it means, but that's basically the Wilson Clash's proprietary technology, and that's how it achieves such a low stiffness, and it's very soft. So with this version 2 of the Wilson Clash 98, Wilson has updated the string pattern to become a 16 by 20. So there's one extra cross string as opposed to the previous gen, which had a 16 by 19. And so that extra cross string will help the mains to not slide quite as much, and it'll give you a little bit more control on those full swings, but it will also give you a little bit less power and spin. So that's the trade-off that you guys are gonna have to make. But it is a 98 square inch, so it's meant to be more on the control side as well, as you guys can see from the specs here. However, Wilson hasn't made this a completely control-oriented racket. It is a 24mm beam, which is pretty thick, and so you can get a decent amount of power and pop from this frame. The one thing that really stands out to me, and the reason why I decided to test out this racket in the first place, is that balance, 30.6 centimeter balance. It's very headlight, and as you guys know, I really like a headlight racket for those quick reflex volleys at the net where I can get in position to dig my opponent's putaways, but also be able to get it over my head on the kick serve especially. I really like a headlight racket, otherwise I won't be able to accelerate through it, and so I'm really excited to get this Wilson Clash 98 onto the court and see how it plays. I've never played a Clash line before, so I'm interested to see the response. Alright guys, so I'm here on court with the Wilson Clash 98. So I've never used a Clash racket before, so I'm excited to see what all the buzz is about. So let's get on the court and find out. Wow, okay, so the free flex, or the 45 technology as it's called now, which gives the Clash series its flex or soft feel. I definitely feel it. Yeah, I definitely feel it. It's very bendy, it's very flexy. It's maybe not quite as soft as I'd expected, coming from just having played with the Phantom, the Prince Phantom, which is very soft and buttery. This one feels a little bit stiffer, probably because of the 24mm beam, which is much thicker than the Phantom, but it's definitely arm friendly. Wow, it's got a great control oriented yet powerful feel, which is exactly what I'm looking for. It's very headlight, so it's very whippy. Gets decent amount of spin, even for a 1620. That extra cross string, I actually do feel it's helping to keep my balls in play. Oh wow, yeah. On that whip up, it was very headlight, very easy to do that buggy whip Nadal forehand with this thing. Wow, yeah, I like it. For a 98 square inch racket, this racket is fairly powerful, most likely because of the 24mm beam, but as the most supposedly control-oriented line in the Clash, this is a lot more powerful than I expected. especially with a 98 square inch and a 1620 string pattern. I'm actually really liking the feel so far on this Clash, not just the flex, but its power and its fast swinging feel. I heard it's not good to string the Wilson Clash with a stiff poly at a high tension, but I actually would like to see this strung with a hybrid. I have it strung with a full bed of synthetic now, and it's moving a lot. I would like to try it with the synthetic main and a poly cross because I really like the feel, the weight and balance from this racket. All right, so at the net here, I can already feel that this racket is not quite as soft as I expected. Probably due to the 24mm beam, but it has that slightly stiff response, which I actually like, because it gives me that pop at the net where I can just block the ball. If you were hoping for a super buttery, soft, flexy racket at the net, this will disappoint you. It is stiffer than I expected. But I actually like it because I can just block the ball in front, especially on those low balls at my feet. The racket will do the rest. And that's what I want in a racket, just like that. Yeah, nice and deep. I've never used the previous generation of the Clash 98, but since this has a 16x20 string pattern, that extra cross string leads to a little bit more string density. That's probably why it feels a little bit stiffer than I expected. It's got a great combination of control and power at the net. All I really have to do is just block it in front. In conclusion, it definitely feels softer at the baseline than at the net, but I actually really like it at the net. So I just have to block it in front like that. Yeah, it feels great at the net for me. No issues at all. So I just got off the court with the Wilson Clash 98 version 2. I played it for about a week. Unfortunately, I've never played the version 1, any Clash in version 1, so I don't have a frame of reference, but this Clash 98 was a very interesting playtest, and the Free Flex, or now the 45 technology as it's called, is very, very interesting, and I definitely did feel like this racket was very, very soft and forgiving on the arm. So let's get into the pros of the Wilson Clash 98. Okay, so the biggest pro with the Wilson Clash 98 V2, and the main reason why I decided to try it, was because the weight and balance seemed ideal on paper. 306 balance, that seems perfect for me because that's really headlight, and I found it to be so. It was incredibly fast swinging. The reason why I look for a headlight racket is for the maneuverability at the net for reflex volleys, so I can get my hands in position to not only dig back defensive volleys but also get it up high to be able to put it away, and also especially on the kick serve, so I can get it from behind my head, accelerating out and pronating really quickly to get that top spin. The Wilson Clash 98 felt perfect in terms of weight and balance. It had enough weight in the head, even though it's headlight, to be able to pack a punch, to be stable enough to not twist in my hand when I was returning hard serves. And also because of its 24mm beam and its unique flex, it did pack a punch for a 98 square inch. I found this racket to be quite powerful for a 98, and I really liked it on all over the court, on serves, on ground strokes, and especially at the net on the volleys. Secondly, and this is the reason why most people are going to buy the Clash series, is that it's very soft and it's very easy on the arm. The Clash series is one of, if not the best selling series. I think the 100 is the #1 selling racket in the country right now because of its unique flex and soft feel. It's very arm friendly, and if you have tennis elbow, as many people do, this Clash series will be able to mitigate some of that pain, and you'll still be able to play tennis the way you want to without having to adjust your strings or your technique. I did string this with a full bed of synthetic, and I've been warned by many people not to string it with the poly, or at the very least not to string it too tight because that's going to negate its unique flex. But I found the synthetic to be a little too powerful, so I would be very curious to try this with a synthetic main and a polycross hybrid. I think that will give me even more control, even more snapback on the mains, But again, if you have tennis elbow, arm problems, a full bit of synthetic at about 48 pounds in a Clash, that will definitely protect your arm. It'll provide you power, it'll provide you comfort, it'll be the whole package. Also, the 1620, that extra cross string provides a decent amount of control. It prevents a little bit of sliding of the mains. So it does get a decent amount of control, but a little bit more on this later. Because it's a 98, it does provide a decent amount of control, but it doesn't sacrifice much power. And even though the Clash 98 is supposed to be the most control-oriented version in the Clash lineup, I think this racket plays a lot closer to some of the tweener frames out there because of its thick beam and its unique flex. It does pack more power than most people would think out of a 98. What surprised me the most on the Clash 98 playtest was the serve. I was able to hit all three types of serves pretty effectively: the flat, slice, and the kick. I especially liked it most on the kick serve, which is pretty rare for a lot of rackets. That's the serve that I struggle with the most, which is why I look for a headlight balance. I really like the Clash on that kick serve, but because it provided a decent amount of power, the flat serves and the slice serves out wide, they were pushing my opponents back and I was able to step in and attack, which is what I like to do. The Clash 98 definitely suited my game. Now, getting into the cons of the Wilson Clash 98 version 2, I said earlier that the 1620 provides a decent amount of control, but because of its 24mm beam, it doesn't provide as much control as you might expect compared to other 98s with a thinner beam. I felt myself sailing some returns long because I like to step in the court and really attack returns. That could probably be mitigated if I put a poly in the cross for that hybrid setup because I was using it with a full bit of synthetic. I just expected a little bit more control from a 98, and compared to other 98s on the market, the Clash 98 is not as great in terms of the control. Secondly, the flex and the feel is very soft, but it does take some getting used to. I never used any Clash before this. I never used any of the version 1s. So from the first few hits, it definitely felt a little off. But once I got used to the feel, I started to really like it, and the response, especially at the net, felt good and I was able to get my touch game, but it does take a little bit of getting used to at first. It definitely felt stiffer at the net than the baseline. I usually just block the ball in front, and on opponents' hard hit shots, I definitely felt it stiffen up a little bit in my hand. With a looser grip from the baseline, I didn't feel it as much, but I still don't think the stiff response at the net is gonna bother most people. Lastly, it probably plays best at low tensions because of its unique flex. If you're used to stringing high tension with thick, stiff polys, don't put that in the Clash 98 because it's going to negate its flex, and there really isn't much point of using this series if you're going to do that with the string setup. So lastly, who is the Clash 98 version 2 for? It's for two types of players. If you want a decent control racket but still be able to pack a little bit of punch, in other words, a tweener frame that's a little bit more control than, say, a pure drive or pure arrow, the Clash 98 will be the answer to that. It gets a decent amount of power without sacrificing that control. The second type of player this racket is meant for is obviously those who are suffering from arm problems. The Clash 98 with its flex will be very soft, very comfortable on the arm, especially if you string it with a full bed of synthetic at a relatively low tension, sub 50, which is what the Wilson Clash recommends anyway. So if you're one of those two types of players, if you have arm problems or you want a tweener racket that's a little bit more controlled than some of the other ones on the market, the Clash 98 version 2 is definitely a racket worth checking out. Thanks for watching this review of the Wilson Clash 98 version 2 right here on OpenCourt. If you guys like this content and want to see more like it, be sure you overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an OpenCourt.